Today's episode is brought to you by Forvis Mazars.
SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. We here at SoundCartel were one of the first, if not the first, in Australia to offer spoken word audio via MP3 players back in the late 90s. Far too early, perhaps, but at around the same time, on the other side of the world, Steve Potash was making ebooks and audiobooks for libraries in North America. Steve is CEO of OverDrive, the largest ebook distributor in the United States, and creator of the Libby app, which allows people to log into local libraries to access audiobooks and ebooks for free. To say business is booming would be an understatement, and it's now aggressively expanding overseas. Chris Ashmore caught up with Steve while he was in Australia looking to partner with libraries here. Steve takes Chris back to the beginning, to OverDrive's startup days.
As I got out of college, I was looking to start up businesses and frustrated by lawyers, contracts, and so I went to law school at nights. And it was while going to night school, getting my legal degree, I determined that maybe with this law license, I could use it to also help fund my young family. And I started to say, there's so many books and the content in these print books, if there was a way for me to access them in a digital format. And I started to experiment with making electronic books on these large floppy diskettes to automate document form and research. And that led to an idea. I developed some software very early on in the early 80s. I said, what if I went to the law book publisher with my technology and the publisher's content? We could be building the future electronic law books. And that is the beginning of what is now OverDrive, where for 40 years I've been approaching publishers, authors, and creators to say, with your intellectual property, with the content you own, there is tremendous opportunity to reach worldwide audiences with a digital edition. I'm so glad that floppies led to CD-ROM. We had a decade of those silver platters and discs. But then in the mid-late 90s, we started to digitize popular trade books, cookbooks, college materials. And today, OverDrive is proud to be the single largest distributor of digital books you read on a screen, ebooks, or audiobooks you might download for your walk or commute, globally supplying tens of millions of users through schools and libraries worldwide.
Well, having an idea is one thing, but acting on it, that's another thing. Have you always had that gumption to push ahead?
Well, I had confidence that one day we would have the ability to have access to any book for any reader, whether it was for entertainment or a novel or escape, or originally I needed it for information, for business, for career and, growth. So I knew it would happen. I just had hoped in the 80s and 90s it would have happened earlier. We started way too early, and when I was putting digital books on floppy diskettes or CD-ROM, it was a little premature for the mainstream consumer user. I mean, the real beginning of the consumer digital book on a screen was when Amazon introduced the Kindle in 2007. There were earlier products and pocket PCs and PDAs and Palm Pilots and reading short text on your BlackBerry. But all of that was really too early. It was really 2009 and 10 when the iPad came out, where it really opened up for publishers and readers digital content for color, for children's material, for every interest and every audience was going to be a reality. And then, of course, we had broad-based browser use and ubiquitous online access.
How then do you keep an eye on emerging technologies and capitalize on that?
Well, I got to tell you, the best indicator of what I should be spending my time is with students in the primary classroom. So when we see how this digital generation that has never been without a screen, a connection, or where there's an anticipation that if there's a piece of content or media, entertainment. So really, we've made big investments over the last 10 years in getting into the classrooms. And I just left a number of your state libraries who are investing in providing access to all students. And we're talking from pre-kindergarten through all of the primary grades. This is where we can really learn the best indication of how we can utilize this media and this reach. And then as we get into the areas of trying to keep on top of the trends for adult taste and adult interests, it's following all the best sellers. If it's popular on the high street bookstore, it's going to be popular in every format, ebook, audiobook, and we love books and reading, print and large print, CD-ROM. So there's a lot of inputs that we can tap into.
I assume building relationships and developing your network, that's crucial to your business, and you do it well.
Thank you, Chris. The one thing I kind of guided our leadership team is our success has been not based on having transactional goals. Yes, if there's an opportunity for us to be the right partner to a publisher, an author, a supplier to a community of students or public library patrons, or for all the higher ed, academic, corporate knowledge centers, OverDrive provides digital books through our Libby app. We want that opportunity, but if it's not right, we really are interested in a relationship. As things evolve and business needs change, you should consider us as a potential partner and resource. And so many of the strongest publishing partnerships I have now are folks that said no to me for 20 years in the 90s and early 2000s. But then they saw the value proposition in we're a mission-based company, Chris, I should also mention. We've adopted the mission of our public institutions, those libraries and schools and universities, because we are so privileged to have access to every great piece of literature, all the bestsellers. And so these long-standing relationships put us in a position where the authors and the suppliers trust us, and those that are reporting to the government agencies and accountability for their taxpayer budgets, why OverDrive is a reputable partner in that role.
Indeed. Now, you've expanded overseas of late, particularly here in Australia. How are things going?
I'm very delighted to say that we are becoming one of the leading suppliers for how Australians nationally can benefit from a best-selling ebook, audiobook for themselves, for their family, for their children, how we serve seniors with sight impairments or relying on audio as a way of reading. And so many of these partnerships with our Libby app have now extended into Australian school districts with our student reading app called Sora. It's going quite well. And we are enjoying a wonderful partnership with so many Australian authors, publishers. Our Libby app was one of the sponsors of the Sydney Bad Crime Award. Chris Hammer, as you know from Scrublands and other titles, is being featured in libraries all across the nation. The Allen and Unwins, the local publishers here have just been great partners to OverDrive.
A big question, Steve. How do you see the future of digital media?
Chris, it's an extraordinarily exciting time to be where the entire ability that was never conceivable before for an author, for an educator, or for anyone who has interest. How is my book being discovered? How is my book being consumed and enjoyed? In the classroom, for example, our student reading app has clearly and transparently showing the student, the parent, the educator, and the funder how books are being used, how we can make impacts towards childhood literacy, how books can be curated on a recommendation level for every interest and taste. We are at the beginning of a very exciting next few years where the combination of deep machine learning and personalization, knowing what your interests and what your reading history is, these are tools for the booksellers, the librarians, and the educators to really connect every reader with a book that can have an impact for their comfort, relief, or wellness.
Fantastic. And look, before we go, and you kind of touched upon it there, you're a passionate advocate for reading literacy. Can you tell me about that?
Having now been working with public libraries for 25 years, we know how every life can be improved with access to books and reading. And whether it's in rural areas or urban, underprivileged areas, we have to get just basic childhood literacy all raised, because it's such a great indication of lifelong success, financial success, and even health and wellness. But literacy actually can improve entire populations, because our ability to understand and ingest the information to help our families, help our longevity, and help our success and career, it's through the work of so many brilliant educators and librarians. And of course, it's all about getting the right content to the right user and making sure they can appreciate and comprehend the message. So it's an exciting time to be in this digital media renaissance for what's being called the science of reading.
That was CEO of OverDrive, Steve Potash. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow @BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Forvis Mazars. To find out more, visit forvismazars.com/au. That's FORVISMAZARS.com/au.